Welcome to the Christian Mental Health Advocate Podcast, hosted by comedian The Whole Shebang Rich Jones. For the next few moments, let this be your safe space. Here is your host, The Whole Shebang Rich Jones.
Hallelujah, hear them sing. Angels laughing on golden wings. Every gig's the whole shebang. Rich Jones sure knows how to bang.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am the whole shebang, Rich Jones, and I am back. I want to thank all you guys for keeping the podcast alive while I was gone. I've traveled a lot. I've been to the Philippines. We had some connecting flights through South Korea and Japan, and even returned through China. And yeah, those airports are so dull. I'm serious. All they sell there is like alcohol and like expensive handbags, whatever, in like some of those Asian markets. But I guess if they think there's a need for it, people will buy it. So, but anywho, I got to go to the Philippines. I got to go to Manny Pacquiao's store, and actually my wife got me some Manny Pacquiao autographed, signed boxing gloves. And it was really cool because there was like a picture of him signing it and like a card of authenticity, which is really cool. And it'll be cool to put up in my man cave. The only downside to that is the first time I went there, they were only like $60. But this time, like, because he just came out of retirement, they were like 3 times as much, whatever. But my wife paid it for it because that's the kind of wife she is. So, anywho, we should all be so blessed, huh? But, anywho, it's been a crazy while, you know? And actually, when I was in the Philippines, I was going through this stage. I don't know, maybe some of you guys have gone through it before, but it's like, you don't hate people, but it's like, you don't like people. You don't want to be around people. Like, do you ever get to that, where you feel like that? Where I don't like people right now. I don't want to be around people. Pets, they're okay, but people, no. Whatever, but yeah, I was going through that a little bit, and when you go through stuff like that, I think the best thing to do is take some time away from people, you know? Take a little bit of time for yourself, do something you enjoy, watch some movies, or write, or listen to music, go hiking, exercise, pray. That's the most important thing. Pray, read the Bible. You don't have to start back really fast. I mean, just gradually, you know. Of course, if you have to work, yeah, just kind of do your job, and just be sure you don't share like anything personal, you know, like, because tell a person, you know how it goes. You got to watch what you tell people. But yeah, thank you guys again for tuning into the Christian Mental Health Advocate podcast, and I'm so glad you guys came. I don't hate people, you know. Like I said, there comes a time when I don't want to be around people, whatever, and it's like, you know, I don't wish bad on anybody. But there are some people I'm not necessarily like cramming or craving to hang out with or go on vacation with, whatever. Like, you know, I go through Thanksgiving and Christmas too, you know. So you know exactly what I'm talking about. So, them relatives, whatever. Actually, I was thinking of making a t-shirt that had like a picture of the pill of Klonopin and say, "Thank you, Klonopin." Whatever, but I know my mom will be like,
Rich, that's not funny. Why do you say that? That's terrible. Why would you make a shirt that says thank you to prescription medication? That's not spreading the Christian message.
And like, she's not gonna listen to my podcast anyway, so she has no idea. I just did my impression of her, which she's alright. She knows I do it, whatever. But Derek Tennant says I need to start putting that more in my act, whatever. But anywho, yeah, I was thinking of making a t-shirt that says that, but at the same time, like, it's just a joke, whatever, you know, I mean, but, yeah, you gotta be around, sometimes you gotta be around people you don't want to be around, and you just gotta deal with it. I mean, just take a deep breath, and just, like, I learned this, actually, I learned this from somebody I used to hang out with a lot, who was a pro wrestler, and the friendship kind of soured, but one thing that he did teach me, and I'm forever grateful, he said sometimes you gotta smile through a shark's teeth, which that's a really cool saying to me. Like, that means, like, you know you're right, you know you could probably do something about it at that very moment, and you're the apex predator aside from the killer whale. You're the apex predator, but, just smile, because you're right. Whatever, smile through shark's teeth. I'm sure I could define that a little bit more, but that's what I have to do sometimes. I find myself doing that. So anyway, I want to talk about something that when I was on my trip, I was thinking about this a lot, and I mean, I'm not the. It's actually is a coincidence that I'm bringing this up during the aftermath of Charlie Kirk, which, okay, everybody was posting stuff about Charlie Kirk. Some people were getting really nasty about it. Even just anybody posting. I mean, it's like, I don't know. I think sometimes you feel like you gotta say something, whatever. The only thing I said, and I actually shared like a interview with Dr. Drew, who used to host Loveline with Adam Carolla. And no, I never called in. But anywho, Dr. Drew was saying how in moments like this, when there's somebody that you disagree with, maybe politically, or somebody who maybe has caused some kind of controversy, whatever, and something happens to him, somebody maybe you don't like, whatever, and even if it was somebody I didn't agree with politically, whatever, there tends to be a tendency to just sort of dehumanize that person and say, oh well, look, it's like look who got what was coming to him, or something like that. I don't think he got what was coming to him. I don't think anybody deserves to go that way, but at the same time, a lot of people were like there were so many people losing their jobs over that and everything, and I don't want to see somebody lose their job, but there are consequences to things you say. And my pastor talked about this one time. He said when I think it was Paul, I think he wrote it, whatever, but he said if your right hand causes your left hand to stumble, or your left foot, it's better to cut it out, whatever. And he's not saying mutilate yourself. He's just saying like if your eye causes you to sin, cut it out, whatever. He's just saying watch what you watch. Or if your foot does, watch where you go. Or your ears, watch what you listen to. Watch what you're putting into your mind and your life. That's what we need to cut out. We need to, I probably, there's places that I used to go where I was more prone to do stuff that I probably would have regretted. So I stopped going there because I didn't want to be tempted. Whatever. And sometimes we got to do that in our own lives, but this is all not what I was going to talk about, but because it kind of came up around the Charlie Kirk thing. This is just total coincidence, but when I was in the Philippines, there was a guy I went to school with, and I didn't like him. Whatever. I don't hate him. I wasn't very fond of him, but my friend despised him. One of my friends who passed, but anyway, okay, so there was this kid that passed away that I was good acquaintances with him. I mean, I knew him since he was in kindergarten. He was like a grade or two below me, but his best friend was like my next door neighbor. So when he died, I was sad. I'd played football with him a few times when he would come over, and I knew him mostly because his best friend was my neighbor, and he was my best friend. The next door neighbor was a little bit before that guy was, but of course they were in different grades, so I understand why they grew closer. They were in the same grade, but anyway, I was really sad for my friend next door that he lost his best friend and everything, and we were on this trip, and it was like a youth retreat, whatever. And this kid that died had a heart attack on the soccer field, and I was really sad about it because it just, I was just sort of grieving, whatever, for my friend, and I wasn't trying to take the attention and put it on me or anything like that, but when we were on a youth retreat, whatever, and that night, our youth pastor's does anybody have any prayer requests? And of course I bring up this kid, and there was this other guy that went to my school that was in my youth group, and he just kind of looks at me, and he doesn't really do anything. He's just hitting on all these girls and everything, and he was I don't know. I'm not gonna get into about him or anything like that, but anyway, and then he didn't say anything about him, whatever. He didn't act sad. He didn't say anything, whatever. But then, about 6 months later, we did a youth lead the worship night or whatever at church, and he did this like whole like thing. Like, he used to do these things, and it wasn't just this instance, but he would get up and he would like talk about something, and then he'd start crying, and it was like he would do it for attention, whatever. And like, it just really bothered me. And I don't know if you guys know people like this or whatever. And like I said, I don't hate the guy, but it just annoyed me, whatever. And like, he read this poem like word for word, or this story like it was his experience, and he did it like in front of our church and everything, and I didn't know anything about it, whatever. And then I go to school like a day or two later, and they had printed this story in like our school magazine, and it was like somebody else's, whatever, but this guy took credit for it about this kid that passed. And I was just like, what a hack, whatever. I mean, like, I don't know, but I mean, okay, so maybe he was grieving, but it didn't come across that way to me, and probably a lot of other people too. But anyway, and like, so I don't know if this has been a term that other people have used, whatever, but I call it a grief vulture. And maybe you guys know people like this, and I know there's like certain mental illnesses that people struggle with, where they will show up at funerals, or they'll go to support groups and stuff because they need that interaction or that nurturing or whatever. But like, anyway, I just want to talk about it, whatever, because I think it's important to discuss things and everything. And like I said, I'm not trying to condemn people that do this, but I think it's worth mentioning. A grief vulture is a person who swoops in on someone else's loss or tragedy, not to genuinely comfort, but to make themselves the center of attention. Just like a vulture circling over something that isn't theirs, they hover over grief so that they can feed on the sympathy, drama, and attention that comes with it. So, traits of a grief vulture: they have performative sadness, lots of dramatic sighs, tears on demand, and long social media posts filled with cliches. I have seen stuff like that, and like I said, I mean, I think people grieve in their own way and all that, and it's hard to tell who's sincere or not. But I mean, this is just for our own maybe self-examination why I'm talking about this, whatever. But spotlight stealing: instead of focusing on the actual grieving family, they turn the narrative towards their heartbreak. And it's sad that a lot of this is going on, because I'll be 47 next month, and like, there's so many people passing away that I went to school with, and like, some of them I probably didn't talk to for the longest time, but like, I cried endlessly because like they were a part of my life. Like, maybe I was best friends with them in 3rd grade or something, or I had a story with them or whatever. But I didn't go around and post everything and make it about me, whatever. I let people grieve. Name dropping the deceased: even if they only met them once, you think they were lifelong best friends. Yeah. This guy definitely was not buddy with the guy that passed. I know that. The one I'm talking about, my thing. Emotional exaggeration: their reaction is way bigger than anyone else close to the situation. And a lot of people that are close to the situation, I mean, you got to give them space sometimes, because they might be just barely holding it together and all that. And like, we need to just be sensitive to their needs. Timing is everything: they appear the second something tragic happens, and disappear once the sympathy dries up. I have seen that a little bit. Why do people do this? Like, attention seeking: they want the thoughts and prayers comment section to blow up. I will admit, like, I have posted where I was having bad feelings and stuff, or like I was feeling like nobody would miss me and all that, and a lot of that is because I see people passing away, and I think like, oh well, they'd be over me in like a day, like, because it's like when somebody else passes, it's like you talk about them for a day or two, and then it's like, that's it, whatever. Of course, I don't see the other side of the coin. I don't see how people are handling this, like, when they're not on social media, whatever. So you got to look at that argument too. We got to be conscious of, like, just because it's our thought doesn't mean it's everyone's thought. Validation: playing the role of the sensitive, compassionate soul. They need to, like, validate themselves. They need people to see them. Connection by proxy: makes them feel closer to something important, especially if the deceased was well loved or famous. I mean, I've met some famous people that have passed away and all that, and like, I have my memories with them and stuff like that. Like if it was a pro wrestler or someone I met, like I have memories and stuff, but it's, I just share it and like say good things, whatever, and then that's it. Like, it's not about me. And there's other people too, drama, addiction. Some folks just can't live without inserting themselves into an emotional storm. It's crazy. Like, some people feed off that emotion. Where you'll spot a grief vulture at funerals, that they cry louder than the widow a lot of times. On Facebook and Instagram, writing a novel about how the deceased once smiled at them in the cafeteria. That's not me. Celebrity death. Suddenly everyone was personally raised by that celebrity's work. Now that's a little bit, I can identify with that a little bit, because like certain people, like I like was a big fan of them or whatever, but I'm not gonna say like they raised me or anything like that. Like I loved the Texas Tornado, Kerry Von Erich, and the Von Erich family, and actually he was one of the coolest celebrities I ever met. He was the nicest guy, aside from Bret Hart. He was like the second nicest wrestler I ever. I don't know. I'd say they're about even, but yeah, he was super cool to me and everything, and like I was really sad when I heard he passed and everything, and it means more to me now that he did sign an autograph for me when he didn't have to, and just gave me a few seconds, whatever. But it's not like I was raised on his work or anything like that. But then there's workplace tragedies. Suddenly, the guy who never talked to Bob in accounting is now Bob's closest confidant. You might see that sometimes when you're at work, and you got to be professional, and like you got to give space, especially to the grieving family, and this is why it bothers people. It kind of cheapens real grief. If somebody's really grieving and they see this guy over there like making a big scene, it's like, what am I? Who am I? Like, this person's like acting like this, whatever, and then it shifts the focus away from the people who are actually suffering. It feels fake, manipulative, and opportunistic. Think of grief vultures as the emotional version of someone who cuts in line. Oh, I wasn't close to them, but let me get up in front and take all this sympathy real quick. So what do you do if you know? Okay, maybe you are a grief vulture. Maybe you know somebody that's a grief vulture. What can we do? Well, we can pray for them. That's the first thing and most important thing that we can probably do. Show them love. Maybe kind of call them to the side. Don't punk them out in front of everybody unless you have to. But try to pull them to the side first and say, hey, look, this is about the family, whatever, and I know maybe you were close to them, but we need to give them some respect and show them some sympathy, whatever. And like, always try to pull them to the side first, because if you have to say something in front of everybody, I mean, you might lose the opportunity to witness to them or share Christ. And I think that's priority, whatever. And like, you can always get somebody else to go with you as well, and talk to them, and work it out that way. And sometimes that's what it takes. It takes more than one person to do it. But anyway, I was getting a phone call there, but I'll talk to him later. So, anywho, I wanted to talk about emotional vampires, not emotional vampires. Grief vultures. Emotional vampires is something totally different. Actually, I read a book about emotional vampires, and yeah, they can be pretty bad too. So, but anyway, I got some songs I want to play for you. I'm working on a book called Beyond. The book's going to be called Beyond the Dolphin Lamp, but this song is in it, and this. I'm not going to tell you the whole story because I want it to be like really cool when you finally do get to read it. But it's about this clown who travels through time, and he experiences these things from the Bible and everything. And like, this is the story of him with he marches with the Israelites around the walls of Jericho, and this talks about walls, whatever, the walls of Jericho, and the line. I love this line that I came up with. I wrote the song. The line I came up with: God, show your power now. Let the walls fall down. I don't think God is angry when we ask him to show his power, because when he shows his power, he's glorified, and then people see him, and then they come to know him. And I think that it's not mockery to tell God, hey, God, show your power. Let us see it. Let us see your glory. Let the walls fall down. And when the walls fall down, it's not just the walls that were holding up the Canaanites that were in Jericho. It's the walls in our heart. So the song is by Not Far Chums, and it's called Walls Fall Down. I want you to check it out. Tell me what you think. Leave a comment. And I thank you guys for tuning in. Come back soon. I will be doing more podcasts. I love you guys. God bless you. Thank you for letting me talk about grief vultures and just kind of share my mind. And if you want to share your mind, you can always message me on Facebook. Send me a email, rich@richjonescomedy.com. My website's going to get redone soon. But I'd love to hear from you, and God bless.
I lace my boots in gears and steam. Through time's great door I stepped in a dream. The desert wind, the trumpet sound. Israel march, no voice, no sound. Whoa, I walk beside them, painted face, and silence bow to holy grace. And I pray, God, show your power now. Let the walls fall down. Walls fall down, the strong made weak. Hearts wide open when you speak. Every stone, every chain hits the ground. Jesus reigns when the walls fall down. God, show your power. Let the walls fall down. The seventh day, the horns did cry. The dust rose up into the sky. I saw fear break, I saw faith rise. The mighty walls could not survive. And in my soul, I heard the call. These walls of sin must also fall. It's how the Savior makes us new, and Jesus' love breaks through. Walls fall down, strong made weak. Hearts wide open when you speak. Every stone, every chain hits the ground. Jesus reigns, the walls fall down. God, show your power now. Let the walls fall down. The walls in our lives, the pride we defend, come crashing down when Christ steps in. Through mercy, through grace, through nail-scarred hands, He enters our hearts, He helps us stand. Walls fall down, the strong made weak. Hearts wide open when you speak. Every stone, every chain hits the ground. Jesus reigns when the walls fall down. Walls fall down, walls down. Strong made life, resurrected open by His shield. Every house where the children around, the bitches, the crowd shouts its battle cry. Oh, show your power, what now? Let the walls fall down. So I lift my painted crown, as fear I choke came crashing down. And with the last tear cry, reaches the crowd shouts its battle cry. God, show your power now. Let the walls fall down.
Feeling lost or struggling with life's challenges? Discover Creation Therapy, a unique approach that combines faith and psychology to help you find your true self. This counseling method sees you as a masterpiece created with purpose and worth, It blends biblical wisdom with psychological insights, offering a path to healing, meaning, and personal transformation. If you're seeking a faith-centered solution to emotional or mental health issues, creation therapy could be your answer. Curious to learn more? Let's discuss in the comments.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to visit richjonescomedy.com and check out the whole shebang. Rich Jones on Facebook and YouTube. Also check out Christian Mental Health Advocate on Facebook and YouTube to learn more.